It will not matter our argument to whether we think it's fair that we've got to come up with something after we've already received the keys. We are here to make sure that the investor that's putting all this money up for this home is satisfied to record.
Welcome to the Dream Home Podcast, the show where real estate meets real talk. Hosted by John Nagle, a seasoned expert with over $7 billion in real estate financing experience. This podcast features top realtors, builders, and financial pros. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you make smarter moves. Here's your host, John Nagle.
Welcome back to the Dream Home Podcast. I'm John Nagle with CMG Home Loans. My guest today is Christine Beckwith, a 35-plus year mortgage veteran who's held roles from originator to senior vice president of sales, overseeing 2 national firms across originations, business development, marketing, financial forensics, training, and curriculum. She's a 5-time best-selling award-winning author, an industry journalist for dozens of magazines, and a decorated speaker who has shared stages with Gary Vaynerchuk, Agent 2021, Miami Garden Stadium, and Ryan Serhant, Bellagio, Las Vegas. In 2018, she founded 2020 Vision for Success Coaching, one of the largest consulting firms serving the American banking and brokering industry, impacting thousands of professionals. She also launched MLO Force and Women with Vision. Christine, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the Dream Home Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So, Christine, what would you say to a loan officer that asks, what are the daily habits that actually move the needle?
Mm-hmm. So we spend a lot of time, I'm a certified time management trainer, and we do certify in that. With loan originators, the target that we provide is called a 4x4. What we tell them to focus on, and with targets, it really helps you hone in on the amount of power, activity, and focus you're giving to prospecting. As a loan originator, your job is to be selling, right? And to be, marketing and connecting the product line of your company or your own business to the consumer's needs and problems. But the problem is our jobs are so complex and there's so much coming at us every single day that having to focus on prospecting is very elusive, even harder so when markets like we're in slow down or become objective riddled. Because it becomes hard to fill those spots. But if you have a target of 4 hours of prospecting, 4 days a week, which is about 50% of an 8-hour day. I don't know, it varies how long loan officers work each day. So if you're someone that isn't doing 8 hours, use the 50% rule. But focusing on that and knowing that it doesn't need to be collectively in one lump, but it needs to equate half of your time in 4 days time.
All right, that makes sense. That's a very, reasonable amount to allocate, and that's a great tip to, if you're not an 8-hour person, then you make it 50%. That's a good advice. So how do you keep yourself honest so those blocks don't get swallowed by urgencies?
Yeah. So you have to think of yourself. My last book, High, Selling as a Drug, is my memoir, my career playbook. And it's chock full of tactical advice for originators, leaders. And the truth is, we have to think of origination like a sport. And I'm an athlete. I went to college for sports medicine and nutrition. I've been athletic all my life. And I really managed as like a coach on the sidelines of this type of sportsman-like, thing called origination. And with that metaphor, I say to professionals in our space, you have to be making more offensive drives in your plays daily than defensive ones. And so once you're building a pipeline, you're subject to inbound emails, phone calls, all of the things that are happening in the various pipeline management. Your ability to grow a pipeline and still keep those defensive communication mechanisms at a high service level while protecting the space to make your offensive marketing and prospecting moves is the master of a high performer. And so what we do here at 2020 Vision, and what I've done my whole career, and I had great practice because I was in the industry 32 years before I decided to become a coach and submit myself to paying forward the lessons I learned with 24 years of national sales oversight. I learned what worked. I learned what didn't work. I learned what people and personalities and characteristics would eventually fail or keep them from gaining traction. And the truth of the matter is this is a skill. It's a muscle. And so you have to learn. It takes habitual training. It's, you'll always resort back to your natural type of day tactics. Some people come to their desk and, of course, they clear their email, but they put no time limit on that. They could sit there endlessly, and as the emails are flowing in, just become beholden to responding. Some people think that's success, sitting there and clearing every single email before they leave at the end of the day. But if they really looked at it from a coach's perspective for high performance, what did they do in their time while they were sitting there? Were they able to disconnect themselves from the noise? Because as excellent service providers, we want to respond fast. I'm a fast responder. If you text me, you're going to get an immediate response, typically within 5 to 10 minutes. Even if I can't speak, I'm going to tell you where I can speak. And overseeing hundreds of people, I had to learn these tactics, and I went out and became certified and trained because I had to understand how I could manage 2,000 people in layers, delegate properly, focus, have my space that was impenetrable. There is places in my day that nobody's going to reach me by phone. Nobody's going to reach me by text. I'm going to be making my offensive moves for my company and business. And when that's done, I'm going to go back with an ebb and flow that keeps communication high, service level high, maintaining the pipeline of clients that I have, and all of those things. So, I think it requires understanding what the components are to creating an efficient and productive day. But it takes you self-controlling your habits to put yourself into the playbook of the day and what plays you need to make to call that a productive day. And so I give that away in my book, but I teach it every day here in training and with the 24 executive coaches that we have here today. And we see great success with people and reframing their days. I will add that we've had people coming to us that during the surge of business were crying and upset and stressed out and ready to quit. And they had getting business wasn't their problem. It was managing the business. And so we live in two realms in the mortgage industry. One is when it's a drought or it's slower and we need to fill our day with productive things and find the business, pivoting to the right sales tactics, answering the right pain points with the client, learning new ways to overcome new objectives, objections that weren't there before. And at the same time, when it's busy, how to scale, maintain, and control the business that we have coming in.
By the way, you mentioned your book, High Selling is a Drug, and I think I told you I'm on my fourth reading of that now. And I would highly recommend that, not just to people in this industry, but anyone that's in sales, whether you're the real estate agent side, loan officer side, but any business at all you're in sales. So it's a great book and a great read. So I definitely recommend it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So I have a practical question. What can a loan officer do this week to speed up, clear to close, and raise pull-through?
Mm-hmm. So every loan officer has to have, an hour to 2 hours a day where they're dedicating time. And I would suggest a morning block and an afternoon block. And this is where you're focused on, your service levels and your customer service. And so, the ease of closing is factored by so many variables, like who you do business with, their pipeline maintenance. We obviously are in a task-based assembly line in the mortgage industry where so many things are happening parallel to one another. And we're kind of the orchestrator of all of that. And so mastering the end-to-end workflow is important. Also understanding where you need to make a clean submission up front and get all the detailed things. There are tactics in time management we use. I'll give you a prime example of that. When you're doing your sales calls, a lot of times once a customer has said yes to the terms you're offering and the benefits that they're receiving in a transaction, you move on to the doc collection. And you'll say, I'm going to send you this list of what's needed. And they'll say, great, I'll get it together. And you end the phone call. In time management, we learn to assign tasks with deadlines and ownership. And so sometimes if we're talking to Mr. Smith and he says, yeah, I'll get on those docs, we end the call, we're happy, we've verbally received a yes to the sale. He, we think, is off running to collect his pay stubs out of his shoebox in his closet. And then we sit and we wait. And in our minds, we think he's running to do that sometimes, or we think that, he's going to get to it tonight when he gets home from work. And the next day we're toe tapping, and then we start to call and follow up. And sometimes we get ghosted, or sometimes we irritate and we create a friction point and pressure on the consumer because we haven't established ownership and deadline. And so when you're in that front end piece, it's important to not only say, okay, Mr. Smith, that's great. When do you think you'll get those docs back to me? Let him give you a time frame. If it's too broad, narrow it for him. If he says, this weekend, say, okay, so are you going to do this Saturday morning? I'm going to be working half a day. I'll be at my desk. I'll be able to take those docs and submit them right away. Can I say by noon? And he'll start to understand, or she, whoever you're talking to, that you really are trying to run a precise process here. It also gives you a silent permission slip to call Mr. Smith at 1:00 on Saturday when those docs aren't received, without annoying that person, because you've said, like, this is the deadline, this is what I'm going to do. And I think spending 10 minutes going over the whole process, I always teach people to say, we're going to ask you for documentation now and throughout this entire process, and maybe to the last minute and beyond the closing. Because here's the thing about mortgages. Like, they're going to go through the hands of many people that have to do a certified job of excellence to make sure that your closing is precisely what we have promised to you. In order for those checkpoints to happen, there are going to be people in the number 2, 3, 4, 5, and even after spot that catch something the previous person did not catch. It will not matter our argument to whether we think it's fair that we've got to come up with something after we've already received the keys. We are here to make sure that the investor that's putting all this money up for this home is satisfied to record. And so all the way to 3 days after you do a refi, or within 24 hours of closing a purchase, you're going to be called upon to offer documents. If we do a really good job, maybe less or so towards the closing and maybe nothing after, but more times often than not, we are still collecting things within an hour of you heading into your car to the closing table. When you set an expectation like this, it changes everything for those phone calls that will come in accordingly. And if you exceed that expectation, you're going to look brilliant. And so I think everything you're doing in terms of making sure your pipeline is going to close fast is going to come on that front end conversation. It's going to come in setting deadlines, ownership, and timeframes, and concisely following up when you say that you're going to be following up.
Yeah, that's a great point about setting expectations, because then you hopefully avoid some of those last minute fires like we all have experienced, unfortunately, in this business. So rates come up in every conversation. What's your best close the gap language without rate chasing?
Yeah. So we spend a lot of time training on the rate question. And we have a class here that talks about pricing objections. And so what we say is educate on rate up front. We understand that the client is trained. Most people that own homes are not, avid expert real estate investors or experts. Mm-hmm. They're people that have owned homes over their lifetime. Maybe it's their first one, maybe it's their 10th one, and their experience has been amassed through the processes. And so they're trained to ask questions like, what is this going to cost me? What's your interest rate? They know what their current interest rate is. And we know right now in this market, everybody's holding on to those really low interest rates that we experienced for a few years. And they're kind of white knuckling them to their own financial demise. In fact, we know that right now people are holding their mortgages longer than they historically have for 40 years because of the low rates. What's happening and has happened to 80% of Americans that are in homes is they've depleted their cash reserves and they've increased their debt dramatically. And as a result of this, they shouldn't be holding on to the lower rate because their blended interest rate is through the roof right now. All those high variable rates on credit cards, all those loans that they've taken out, they're not in a risk position that they were in when they obtained that last loan. And so quite frankly, even if today rates were rock bottom, they wouldn't get the bottom rate because they would have a high DTI. Because of their debt position, they wouldn't look as good on a reserve basis. And so our goal is to do a 2-transaction education when we start the rate conversation by saying, look, rates are really good. They're better than they've been for a couple of years right now. And we can get you cash because you have equity, which is the case for most Americans. And we can also help you resolve some of that debt. What is going to happen is rates are going to change every single day during this transaction. If you like the rate that we're offering today and you qualify for it and it puts you in this better financial position, my suggestion is to lock because there is nothing that's going to prevent you from losing this good interest rate that you qualify for today. And I'm going to tell you this. If you do lock and the rates go down by 1/8 a quarter, don't lose your mind. That's the up and down of this risk. Obviously, buy down interest rate loan packages that are available out there are attractive right now if they can lower the rate, lock, and still lower the rate. But really, it's just educating them. Like you want to grab a good one. And when you get it, lock it. You got it. Don't look back. Let's go forward. Let's get this thing closed. And so we teach the education between past markets and current markets as well and make them understand why this market is rich in resolution. You know, people compare this market to the 07-08 market, which I lived and led through, to a closure of the national company that I worked for, H&R Block Mortgage, completely during the mortgage implosion years, put 2,500 people out of work, shut the lights off. I was the last person leaving on that national sales force. And the reason being is we didn't have equity and we didn't have demand. And those are two key components in a rich environment. We have both of those things today. And so as a result, even though loan originators are making less money and the volume is down because of the difficulty in selling interest rate these last 3 years, we equate the effects that we see, which are similar to that market, to the cause, and it's not. And we need to understand and we need to be able to speak as experts about the cause of this market so that we can convince and make believability in our consumers, and rightfully so, with no sleaziness, with no slickness in our sales, that look, you want to get in a good position because that second transaction is going to come in the next couple of years when rates really do come down. And you want to be in a position where you look good on paper. You have reserves. You've lowered your debt. You're paying your mortgage and you're in a better position than you're in right now. So those are my suggestions as it relates to the rate conversation.
Yeah, I think those are great suggestions. And one of the programs we have here at CMG Home Loans is called Rate Rebound. So for 5 years, we will refinance for free after that initial 6 months, meaning no origination fee, no processing fees. We waive the appraisal. And that allows the buyers to kind of ride those rates as we're expecting them to come down in the future, but yet take advantage of this market now, because currently in my market in Texas, 2 years ago, you were not getting seller credits from existing homeowners. And now we're getting that probably 50% or more of the time. And when the rates go down quickly, which is again the expectation, prices are going to go up. That's exactly what happens down here. So this, in my opinion, is a great time to buy, because you're kind of right in the middle of that situation. Like you said, so a lot of people are holding back. You're going to have a lot more competition as these rates come down, in the very near future. So one of the other things that loan officers ask me daily is, how do you actually earn realtor referrals consistently? What's your system?
Yeah, so I spent the better part of the last 15 years of my in-mortgage management helping build out Annie Mac Home Mortgage from the ground up. I was one of the initial 2 branches, and I would become the national vice president of sales and real estate development. And so my job was to go out and open markets, recruit teams with the help of hundreds of people in our organization that were very talented. And then educate with this group that had established an inside real estate educational platform. It worked magically. I mean, we had 50, 60,000 real estate owners come into that educational fold. and I started speaking on the national real estate circuit. And so I was lucky enough to be on huge stages with big branded real estate organizations over the final 5 years of my career. And this is the deal. Right now, realtors are sick of your cold calls. So listen up, loan officers. We are not going to reach these realtors that way. What we need to do is create warm introductions. And we need to think of this as a long dating game. We are not going to ask for the marriage proposal on the first introduction, right? We wouldn't do that in real life. We're not going to do it with realtors. So if this is your career, I want you to start thinking like you're courting many people. It's a long play. I'm going to give you a couple of specific tactics that you can use. I could spend 8 hours talking to you about real estate development. What I know is it's a face-to-face game. It's a contact sport. Quick suggestions are to get out there on the open house circuit in your geographical area that you're serving and show up. I know, sometimes we're like, well, I wouldn't like that if I was the lender that was asked to, cater the lunch. And I understand that. I think there's a very professional way to show up, and not try to step on the lender that might be at the open house. I think it's a handshake to that lender. I think it's a handshake to the realtor that's hosting the listing. I think it's a going on social media and sharing that there's an open house this weekend. That realtor is going to see you promoting it for no other reason than to spread the word to your community and help within your community. I think leaving business cards and a present something nominal so we don't trip any compliance wires for the realtor is important. And I think, always putting yourself in a position, which we don't do in dating, where we're like, pick me as number two. They all have their own lenders. And that can be an objection for us starting a relationship with a realtor because we say they already have a person. Well, guess what? 100% of them already have a person. So if you're going to let that be the reason you don't work with realtors, you might as well quit right now. I'm telling you, you've got to go in with an attitude of pick me as number two. You have to bring value. So here's the one tactical thing, a great technique. If you can write this down or rewind this podcast and listen to this, you want to write a post and then you want to say to all my friends and family, colleagues, peers, if you bought or sold a home from an excellent realtor, would you drop their name in the comment section? I am building an elite realtor list for my area of experts, and I want the very best. I'm going to say that again. If you bought or sold a home with an excellent realtor, would you drop their name in the comments section? Because I am building an elite realtor list for my clients for referral, and I need the best in my geographical area. And what will happen is everyone wants to brag about their best realtor. Now they start dropping the names in the comment section. They're actually tagging those people. You're probably not connected to those people yet. You don't want to go over and friend them right away. What you want to do is thank publicly the person that referred it. Then you want to go to your messenger on whatever social app you're using. And typically this works best on like Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok is good there. Obviously LinkedIn is more B2B. So this probably wouldn't be the best play there, but Facebook's magic with this. And then go over to Messenger and say, hey, Mr. Smith, Sally said you were awesome when she sold her house. Could you tell me more about the area you serve, what your expertise is in, and anything you can tell me about that market area? I'm going to put your name in my elite realtor list. I come across people that need help in these areas. I would love to be able to refer you. It's a promise of future business. It's a promise for looking out. You're not asking for business from them. You are just saying, like, I want to add you to something elite. And then you put them in your realtor CRM. And you only pump out educational things in that realtor CRM, advice and things they can share. You start sharing, liking, and commenting on their posts. And then within a couple of weeks, go ahead and friend them. They've seen you're friendly. They've seen you're not asking for business. They've seen you're bringing value to the table. And you're going to get that friend accept. And now you're going to be able to do that on a heightened level. Remember, you're dating right now. You're courting them. And so over time, that person will want to meet you, have a coffee date. They will ask you about your business. And by all means, when they lead you there, you can talk about that. And this is the way in. That's one thing. And the final thing I'm going to say is join your local real estate board. This is how I started my career. I had great mentors. I actually was an assistant loan officer to a female originator out of Boston. in my college years. I learned from her originations. And believe me when I tell you, this was during the Stone Ages. So we were scrolling carbon copied notes and typewriters. And we were mailing loan off, LOX letters. We returned stamped envelopes. It was back in the day. But when I finished and I decided not to go into full-time into my field that I've chosen, collegiate focus, and to become a loan originator, I had a mentor tell me, go out, here's your geographical location, get in front of people, join your local realtor board. And I have to tell you, I was young. I was like 21. And I went out on the road and started cold knocking on doors. And I wasn't always faced with warmth. In fact, one of the best stories I have is that I went through a door that said no solicitation unknowingly and got thrown out of a broker office in Pittsburgh, Massachusetts. And it made me emotional because I was embarrassed. And so as I kind of tucked my tail between my legs and walked back to my car that day, emotional, I was kind of fighting tears and definitely embarrassed. The broker ran out after me and he said, hey, because his front desk person was the one that said, didn't you read the sign on the door? And he heard it through his office and he didn't like how she had spoken to me. So he stopped me and he said, look, I'm the president of the local real estate board. You should join the board. It's only a couple $100. I'm sure it's a little more expensive than that today. He said, go to the monthly meetings, volunteer for their community service stuff. It'll put you arm to arm with realtors and you'll begin to develop relationships. So that's what I did. I went every single month. I volunteered for like 7 different community action things. Within 3 years, I received the prestigious annual Affiliate of the Year award, which is basically every realtor's vote for their best vendor, which meant all of the loan officers, inspectors, appraisers. And this award came to me in 1997. And I will tell you that it put my name on the map as a loan officer and my career soared from that spot. So again, these are warm places that you can build slowly, but steadily realtor relationships. So I know that's a really long-winded answer, but I hope there's a lot of meat on the bone for everybody listening with that.
No, that was an incredible strategy you explained, and what an amazing accomplishment 3 years in to be named, right, the affiliate member of the year. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, that's awesome. So can you share with us a quick proof of concept where a loan officer or team applied these ideas and scaled?
Yeah. In 2001, I overtook a district of 125 loan officers in Boston, Massachusetts. They were in last place out of 14 major markets, yet they had the second highest loan average balance in the country to Southern California. So they were stepping up to the plate and swinging a wiffle bat and missing the ball. And so I spent the first 90 days and I wanted to put the the pedal to the metal there. But I did, and I met with every single originator, 125 of them. And when I was done, I saw 3 major trends. One, they had no business plan they were operating from, which is essential. I know it's boring, but when you have the right accountability partner and you really do it well, and we master that here as well, we start you with a blueprint for success right out of the gates. My first best-selling book, Wise IC, Your Way to Success, breaks down business planning. 2, morale. You have to keep your mindset good. You have to create an environment of fun. We did that in this group. And then finally, they need a vision of the future. They need to look beyond where they're standing and know that they can rise and that sort of thing. And so after I collected all this and I understood, what was really keeping them down, we met regularly, we shared metrics regularly, and we quickly moved out of last place by really defining what they did day to day and lifting morale and operating from a business plan so they knew what their daily numbers looked like and needed to be, what they needed to do for prospecting, all of those things. We were in the middle of a circle of excellence with no shot at even coming in the middle of the pack that year. And within the last 3 months of this contest, we had made it to number 3. And I have to tell you, getting average, we were celebrating when we were in the middle of the pack from last place. We were pretty excited. And at that point, I kind of asked them, do you feel like this is it? Is this all you have? And they were like, no. And the momentum was palpable. I had people coming in early, working late, coming in on weekends without asking because it became like a sport. And when we got within the number 1 spot in 90 days, I in my locker room speech said, I think we have a real shot at number 1. I don't know how you exceed on excellence. And if we never went another spot from where we are, I would be so proud of everything we've done. We've got, we've received accolades along the way. Your production's up, our profit is up. All of us are happier. I don't need the number one spot, but if it's something you feel like would be a great ending to this year's story, I say we go for it. And we cinched the number one spot within 3 days of the contest ending. The winning prize was a trip to Switzerland. Because of us being a number one, I was allowed to bring 50 employees from 125 originators with spouses to Switzerland. And as a result of that, I put a YouTube that's out there together that tells the story with the members of that team. And it's a 10-minute video that is incredibly emotional. You can see what it did for the spirit of these professionals. And these professionals would go on in my career, because this was early in my career as a senior leader. And they would have thriving careers. Remember the tactics that made them rise. You never forget those type of wins. I said in Hive, you got to get a win. You got to get a win. When you get that win, when you stand at the top of your mountain, you get that feeling. It's a feeling that you are never going to forget. And you get a taste for that. You want that. It's self-accomplishment. It's why we yell at the TV screens on Sunday when our teams are in football. It's not life or death, but there's a spirit of winning that happens. Our team, our colors, camaraderie, like all those components, which brings me back to the idea that this is a sport. I've always treated it that way. As a coach, I'm running down the sidelines with my players, my loan originators, my leaders, and I'm yelling, take the shot when they're in the sweetest spot on the court. And I feel like those things matter, creating those environments matter. So you can tell I have a passion for this industry, for what I do. I have a love for the mortgage industry. It's changed my life. If you want to know how, again, not to sound self-serving, but I did write a book called Breaking the Cycle. And I talk about my upbringing, which, by the way, was amazing with 2 incredible parents, but teenage parents. And we didn't have a lot. My whole career has been dedicated from the time I was 18 to now with no gaps. I've never been out of the industry. Even in retiring directly from management, I chose to consult now here. And as long as I'm strong and I'm able, I'm going to be out here telling professionals how to make the most of what they want. I know that not everybody wants to be number one. And I don't think you have to sacrifice your life to be number one. I'm a true believer in balance. And I raised a son through this whole career. I was pregnant as a senior vice president and traveled 34 weeks of my 40-week pregnancy across this nation, serving branches. I'm living proof that you do not have to miss a Little League game or volunteering at your son's Thanksgiving dinner at school, and you can get the most. So I would say my message to everybody listening is there is an efficient way to be successful. There is a very pointed way to hit the mark right in the center on your GPS. If you listen to the tactics, to your consumer, to what is needed right now, and you raise your believability in practice, like be confident in what you're doing. You're bringing the American dream. Remember how that's anchored. We are putting the warmth over cold roofs, and we're putting, the memories kind of in the family. And I never forget that. And I'm constantly here to remind others, like, don't forget what we do. Like at the end of the day, we're trying to be great at it, but what we're doing is great,
Well, that's an amazing story to bring them from last to first, especially on the scale of that with 125 originators. That's just absolutely phenomenal. And, it is truly a rewarding business. That's probably one of the things I enjoy most is the ones that perhaps are more challenging, but they deserve to be in a home, and you have to kind of fight the battles to get them through the process. So I have one last question here for you, and that is, what is a single action a loan officer can take in the next 7 days to change their next 90 days?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, this is going to be a visual sport. You want to be in front of people that are thinking about doing refinances and buying homes. We're getting stuff in the mail right now, and they're seeing all these ads on TV. They're seeing them when they go to, check deposit and all this stuff. You need your CRMs to be tight. You need them to be at a higher pace. You need to be visible. This is going to be a timing game. Are you going to be the last person that raised your hand and said, I can help you fix your financial problems using your home? Are you going to be the person that says, I can get you a really great deal on that house that you're trying to get into? So please understand, as everyone slows down and life pulls us away in the holidays, those of us that stay focused and visible are going to get the market share.
Great. It's a great strategy for sure. So if today sparked ideas, don't leave them in your notes. Put them down on your calendar. Reach out to Christine and explore her work at visionyoursuccess.net, including 2020 Vision for Success, MLO Force, Women with Vision, and her books. Share this episode with a teammate who needs it. We've linked everything in the show notes below. Christine, thank you for joining us and sharing your amazing tools that help loan officers succeed. I'm John Nagle with CMG Home Loans. Subscribe, leave a quick review, and if this helped you, we'll see you the next time on Dream Home Podcast. Christine, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Dream Home Podcast, hosted by John Nagle. Ready to take the next step toward your dream home? Visit www.dreamhomepodcast.com for resources, tips, and expert advice. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and join us next time for more real estate insights and mortgage tips. Until then, happy home hunting.